This is a show where we interview pastors, leaders, and ministers to find out what they think God is doing in these days. Hi, I'm Adam from Faithful Media, and this is The Pulse. In a previous interview, we talked to Pastor Paul Pearson, who told us the importance of going out of the church and not just relying on the church as a building for where we worship the Lord, but taking it onto the streets in our local communities and areas. Well, my guest this morning is doing exactly that. We would like to welcome Pastor Colin Ruddock. Good morning, Colin. How are you doing?
Good morning, Adam. It's great to be on the show this morning.
Great to have you with us. Thank you for giving up your time. I know it's precious to you, so thank you for agreeing to join us this morning and telling us a little bit about your story. It's really kind of you.
Now, I've been looking forward to it, Adam. Since I see the previous interviews, I thought, oh, wow, would it be great to be on the show? And then to get the call was exciting. So, yeah, here we are.
Great
Thank
stuff.
you again.
Brilliant. So, Colin, you know, you've been a pastor for many years now, and there's not a lot of things that you haven't seen, but I'd love you to just tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you came to Christ.
Yeah, Adam, you know, I've been saved for many, many years. And the joy of serving the Lord and actually coming in to know who he is based on my parents. You know, they came over in the 60s from Jamaica into the UK, but they were Christians. They were serving the Lord. So they raised 7 of us to go to church, go to Sunday school, continue every Sunday. We had no choice. There was no options. It was just get into the car, and they literally guide us in our Christian walk, you know, and surround us with people that love Jesus. So we were always insulated with the gospel. So my journey has been really exciting. They've been so prayerful over our lives that there's no way we could even deviate from the left or to the right. They kept us from school. They watched over us. To a point, sometimes I feel that they was very overprotective, but I'm grateful for that because I didn't get caught up with gangs. I didn't get caught up with smoking drugs or anything like that. So I'm grateful for the journey that I've been on. Yeah.
Do you remember the actual time that you came to Christ? Was there a specific day that you remember praying the prayer and asking the Lord to be your personal saviour?
Absolutely, yes. So back in my church, in the New Testament Church of God in Manchester, we used to have quite often evangelists that would come over and preach. And there was 2 separate occasions. The first occasion was when he came, he shared the responsibility we have to follow Jesus, and then also explained of the consequence of not following Jesus and going to hell. And I didn't like the sound of hell. The way he put it, I did not like the sound of that. And I said, Lord, this I can't go there. So in my mind, I made a conscious decision. And then it was back in the days of the cross and the switchblade. So our church was very evangelistic. They showed the film. I think it was the following week. And I thought, God, you must be real. Here's these guys, you know, gangs, killing people, and you still love them and save them. This is my opportunity. So that day I gave my heart to the Lord, and always been following him ever since. And that was 16 years old.
That's amazing. So Wow. Tell me a little bit more about, it must have been incredibly difficult for your parents, I mean, back in the day, to move countries, you know, to move lock, stock and barrel, 7 children. There must have been some challenges there, not only for your parents, but also for you and your siblings attending church every week. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, and you know what, Adam, what I found with those days was there's a real sense of community. You know, in the Black and Afro-Caribbean culture, there was that real sense of we've come off a boat into a strange country, but they weren't alone. They really gathered together. So we would find my parents would live with other people in their house.
Wow.
It was just tremendous. You know, everybody looked out for each other because, you know, it's hard to get a mortgage those days. It's hard to get a mortgage. It was challenging with the color of their skin. As you know, some of the stories over the years, you know, we weren't embraced as we would expect it to have been. So things were a lot harder. But what they did was, as Christians, they kept together. I always felt it was like the book of Acts, that meeting together in houses, that sharing everything together, nobody going without. And that's how they made it. Literally, that's how they made it. For us growing as well, we had godmothers and godfathers who literally did what they said on the tin. You know, other parents would look after us as they went to work with 2, 3 jobs. You know, people coming to our house, we would go to their house. It was a real sense of coming together and making it. So it was powerful. It was powerful, Adam. That's why they made it.
Yeah. So not only living in the book of Acts, but also, I guess, you were ministered to in different ways from many different people at a young age. So you would not just have going to church on a Sunday, because there were so many people in your house and sharing time with you and your family. You'd have the word of the Lord coming from all your different godfathers and mothers and aunties and uncles and, you know.
Oh, incredible. Absolutely. From 6 weeks old, once we were born, 6 weeks old, we were getting dedicated to the Lord. Every single one of us were dedicated to the Lord from 6 weeks old. Because they had a mindset, Adam, of the babies weren't allowed to go out into the airborne outside because they felt that we would contract a virus, or they were protecting us because they felt that 6 weeks was too young beforehand to go out. So by the time they got to that point, it's incredible. By the time they got to that point and got to church, they said, right, it's time to dedicate them to the Lord now. And we would have our godmothers at the front of the church and saying, yes, I vow to look after the children. If anything happened to the parents, I vow to step in and protect them and cover them and raise them. So great, amazing experience. I mean, obviously I was young at the time, but over the years, I saw what was taking place. Powerful.
What a great community to be involved in. You know, I only pray that as we move into this new season, that we can embrace some of those, you know, benchmarks that you've just described, you know, as a family of God. I just pray that we can do that. So you went through school, and I bet that was a challenge as well. 7 siblings as well. Could always get a bit of help with your homework, though, I would think. So that's quite good. And then where did it all start for you in terms of your ministerial role?
Yeah, so growing up in the New Testament Church of God, it was 99.5% Black Caribbean. So we grew up just knowing one thing. The challenge we found as we grew up, we didn't experience other faiths in terms of culture. So we were raised doing the same thing every Sunday, every week, prayer meetings during the week. But it got to a point, Adam, where the Lord clearly spoke to me and said, I have more for you. Now, what was hard for me and for the people around me and my family was, wait a minute, we've all stayed in this family, in this church community all of our lives. For someone to leave that and go to another ministry seemed unheard of. It was like not the done thing. But the Lord spoke to me and said, you know, I need to use your life, Colin, because you're not growing, you're just comfortable. Mm-hmm. So I really had the real word, a real rhema word from the Lord. And he said, I need you to move to Victory Outreach. And what was so apparent was it was nothing like the ministry I was used to. They were completely on the edge. They were going out, sharing the gospel, reaching drug addicts, reaching alcoholics, the people that were marginalized. And I said to myself, Lord, I was quite happy where I was, just sitting down, getting the word, paying my offerings and going home. But I wasn't impacting or effective or making a difference. So the Lord said to me, you know, it's time to move. But I wasn't obedient straight away. I said, okay, Lord, now I've realized you're speaking clearly to me. Let me go to another church and to see what they do, which was a small African church. They taught the word. Their real grounding was getting understanding of the word. So I was there for about 18 months, getting into the word of God, getting into the word. And then he said, you know what? It's time to move. This is where I need you to be. Because remember, Adam, I was at the place where I'm thinking, I know what Victory Outreach is all about. I don't want to get pulled into all these things that they are doing. I'm a bit scared, Lord. I'm not too sure if I can speak to people about Jesus. I'm not too sure if that's for me. But then he reminded me, that's what I've called you to do. And I had friends in the church of Victory Outreach were saying, yeah, Colin, I believe you're called over here. It was confirmation after confirmation. And eventually I said, Lord, it's time to move. I'm moving.
Hallelujah.
And my pastor at the time, Pastor Paul and Sister Vicky, who are still my pastors, they oversee our region. They were discipling me before I even came into the church, which was absolutely incredible. I never knew about discipleship in my old church. There's a lot.
Yet you were with them, and you had relationship with them before this.
Yes, that's right. I had a relationship before I actually moved into the church. It was incredible how they embraced me and opened their arms to me. Was just like, why are they doing this? I'm not even part of their church, but they knew that I needed to be there. They knew before I probably did.
Isn't it amazing how the Lord sets that all up before you even know it? It's like when you look back, you think, yeah, the Lord knew where I was going to be in 20 years' time or 10 years' time, and he'd already put the pieces into place before that. It's phenomenal, isn't it?
Oh, incredible. Absolutely amazing. I couldn't fight it anymore.
No. So you gave in, you joined Victory Outreach Church, and this was at Manchester?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Victory Outreach in Manchester. And you spent some time there in a ministerial role?
Well, what happened was when I left New Testament, went to the small church in between, got to Victory Outreach, I was discipled by the pastors. I was sharing some of the challenges I was facing. They were open, they were helpful, they were praying for me. But then I met my wife. So that was 2008. And we got married in 2009. So in between that time, I was like, okay, Lord, this is all happening quite quick now. I see that you're moving in my life. So for me, I had to go on a journey of getting to know what this ministry was all about, getting close to the vision, getting close to what God wants me to do. So I had to really be humble and say, Lord, just use me. I'm available. I'm here. Just use me. So me and my wife, we were in the children's ministry for 10 years. We were serving in the children's ministry for 10 years. And that wasn't easy because for me, I was just like, wait a minute, Lord, I've moved to this church. Is this all you've got for me? But he reminded me, this is probably the most important ministry in the church. I quickly had an eye-opening experience because you get to the point where you think, children's ministry, I'm missing the service, I'm missing the preaching, I'm missing the worship. But the Lord said, I need you to be here because I need to know how humble you're going to be teaching young children the ways of the Lord. You're not babysitting them, you're teaching them the ways of the Lord. And they kept in that ministry for 10 years. And I was just serving in there. My pastors saw what we were doing and then started to move us up a little bit, slowly by slowly, move us into staff meetings, give us little responsibilities. And I saw God's hand upon our lives. He really started to shape us. And I'm so grateful for the foundation of my old church, as well as what God was doing in Victory Outreach. So super excited. Yeah.
Amazing. So serving children, sowing the seeds for the children's growth in the Lord. Amazing.
Yes.
And they will never forget that, they will just never forget. I remember my primary school teacher, and still some of the lessons are just so fresh in my mind, and the things we used to do at primary school, and that was just a normal secular school. So I would imagine they'll have many, many years remembering how you taught them and what you taught them. So that's amazing. Yeah. So you started going up the ladder, as it were. I know we don't do hierarchy really, but unfortunately, we've got to have hierarchy in this realm. So you started climbing the ladder or changing your role within the church, let's just say that. And you started being included by the pastors. They saw something in you that would transfer into another avenue, maybe a different way of serving within the church. What did that look like, Colin?
What was exciting at that point, Adam, was that when the Lord said to me, I want you to serve, I said to my pastors, whatever you want me to do, I'm here to do it. Likewise with my wife as well, Natasha. So we literally said, okay, we will serve. I was picking up my pastor's son, taking him to football. We would go to the house, look after the kids. We would serve in the church, go out and visit people that needed help and support. We were literally saying, Pastor, whatever you need us to do, we're here to do it. And we grew in so close as friends and as colleagues and as ministers together, just serving the Lord. But what he saw was my servant heart. That's what he picked up on, the fact that I was willing to do whatever. And that journey, Adam, was quite exciting because I wasn't allowed to get close to the pastor before in my old church. He was kind of over there. I never had a relationship with him. Nothing wrong with the person. He was a nice guy. His wife was lovely. Nothing wrong with them. But I never had that relationship. They always seemed a bit distant. But here I am now at Victory Outreach in the pastor's house. They invited us over for dinner and we were shocked. The pastor had invited us over for dinner in their house. Wow, is this normal? So we built such a relationship. We were similar in age, and God was really starting to speak to me and started to say, look, I'm taking you higher. But I didn't know what that looked like. So one day the pastor said, I want to put you forward for your minister's license. That was it then. I was like, really? Me? Why me? I'm just here to serve. I'm not looking for any kind of higher authority or high responsibility. I just want to serve. But he saw my pastoral heart, and that's what I didn't see myself because I was just doing it, And then I went for my license in 2015, passed my exams, and as they say, the rest is history. I was there, sat on the front row with all the other ministers. People are saying to me, Pastor Colin, Pastor Colin. And one thing, Adam, I admitted, and I said it on the pulpit, and the pastor rebuked me in a nice way, because I was about to preach, and I said, you don't need to call me Pastor Colin. I'm Colin. But when I'd finished the message, pastor said to me, yes, you are Colin, but you have a title now that people will honor and respect you with. So you are Pastor Colin, particularly in these settings of church. So he rebuked me in a nice way. And since then, I've always said, I'm a pastor, I'm Pastor Colin, and I say it humbly.
Well, it's also stepping into the identity the Lord has given you, isn't it? And recognizing that and accepting that as well, I think. I think accepting a title is part of that whole process. So you were up there for a number of years serving as a pastor. And then one day you seemed to up sticks and come down south. What happened there?
Wow, that is another, oh goodness. When the Lord is in your life, it can only be the Lord. Because remember, I was quite happy staying in Manchester and serving my pastors and building a church. Very happy with that. Me and my wife were very comfortable with that. I've lived in Manchester all my life, so that's all I knew. So I was very content there. But the Lord has a way, Adam, of bringing you out of contentment or bringing you out of complacency and taking you to another level. So, like I said, we got married in 2009. I met my wife when I was doing an event at a church in Birmingham. And what was amazing was I never liked Birmingham. I would travel to Birmingham to do events. I would work with Kurt Franklin and different promoters in the city, doing events at, the town hall and different places. And that was great. So I'd go to Birmingham and back to Manchester quickly. There was something about Birmingham that didn't resonate with my spirit. So I said to my wife, we get married in Birmingham. I respect that. I love that, but we're going to live in Manchester. Is that okay? She goes, that is absolutely fine. I don't know Manchester that well. It's a new experience for me. And you know what, Adam? She traveled around the world. My wife had traveled around the world prior to all of this, and she hadn't been to Manchester. So for her, it was great and it made sense. But what I said to the Lord, Birmingham is never an option. We'll get married in Birmingham, live in Manchester, serve the Lord, serve the pastors there. And that's all I wanted to do. But to then hear my pastor say, there's an opportunity for you to go to Birmingham and start a big Outreach church. I said, Pastor, Birmingham it's not really on my list. It's not on my list of things to do. I already said clearly, that I'm going to live in Manchester and serve. That's all I wanted. But he said, you know what, there's a calling on your life to take the church in Birmingham. And prior to this, Adam, which was amazing, was that the pastors that were here before at Victory Outreach in Birmingham, because we had a church prior to this, it didn't work out for them. Long story short, it didn't work out for them. But my pastor sent me and my wife to close the church and to make the pastors feel like they've not just been a failure, support them, love them, take them out for meals, help them to do the whole charity commission thing, close the church down, do it properly. But I'm sending you to help them to transition out of Birmingham. We just were available. Again, like I said, to get in our car, drive down the M6 and support this couple and the church people that were left there. Not knowing that 5-6 years later, we would be in Birmingham taking the church.
So you came down to help them close the church, and you ended up taking the torch off them and carrying the torch into the next season. That's fantastic. You can't write it, can you? It's just fantastic. It's brilliant. Brilliant. So I know you because when you first started the church up at Birmingham in the building that you were in, you were kind enough to invite us to come and do worship with you on one of the services, which was just fantastic. It was a great event, and thank you for that. It was great to worship in a different area with different people. It was just really interesting. And we had a great time as well, which was fantastic. And that was the only time that you and I have kind of met in that setting. But then I heard quite quickly after that you had a word from the Lord that something different had to happen again. And then obviously we had COVID. So just take us through that little transition.
Yeah, just touching on what you said there, Adam. It was great that, you guys were part of Burn 24/7 and you came and did the worship, for our church. It was just amazing. Because remember, we were a new church plant. We didn't know anybody. I was new to the city. So where the Lord connected us was fantastic. And we will always be grateful to you guys for that. And we've got relationships out of this that were still ongoing. Here we are now, and it's a beautiful thing. So from there, we started to have our services in that same building in the city centre. But the Lord said to us, it's okay you having your church, at your 12 o'clock till whatever time, but I also want you to be on the streets. The Lord reminded me recently that even before our services started, we would go on the streets for an hour and share the gospel and then start our service. And people would come in off the streets to our service. We had teas and coffees. Didn't all stay, but many of them came because they were grateful for the tea and coffees. They were ministered to. We shared the gospel with them. But the Lord was showing me a journey that I was going to be on later that I didn't see. I didn't know that we're not going to be in the building anymore. We were really new to having a church and planting the church and leading the church. And then, like you said, Adam, the Lord spoke to me so clearly. We had our first service, I think it's September 2019, and we're getting excited. You guys came over and set up the equipment for us and all these things, and we were really looking forward to our services. We had 4 months of services, and like you said, COVID hit in March 2020, and we're like, oh, wow, we're just gathering momentum. People are starting to hear us and see where we are and what we are doing. Lord, what's going on? So we then had to quickly learn what it means to do services online. We had to go from in the church with people in front of us, doing what church does, and then having to come home and learn how to do camera, learn how to do backdrops, learn how to do the whole thing. And I'm like, wow, Lord.
Back to college.
Back to college. But you know what, Adam? I am grateful for my wife. When the Lord showed me my wife, he showed me that she's going to be an asset. She's going to be a source of support and help. She's going to meet those needs that you can't meet on your own. She's fantastic at media. She's fantastic at editing. She's fantastic at setting up cameras. She's got all that background, that college background. she did it at our church in Manchester as well. So here we are with all these skills that she has, been able to do our services online, even though we still had to learn what it looked like. She already had that foreknowledge and experience. And I would say, Lord, you are incredible. You knew all this beforehand, and it's already worked out.
So thank the Lord for Natasha's skills. Obviously, another example how the Lord's prepared beforehand, Colin, for something in your life that is going to happen now. You know, how amazing is that? So you've had the church in the building in the middle of the city centre in Birmingham for a little while. COVID hits, and you're learning now how to do church in a different way, or how to meet with people in a different way. How long did that last for? And then what happened after that?
Yeah, so from the September up till the March, we had services every Sunday, and it was great. We were getting momentum. And then, as we said, COVID hit in the March. And then again, just going back to what I said earlier, the Lord had been showing us to be on the streets even before our services. Mm-hmm. So when the Lord spoke to us, it was around about April. We had Easter. We made Easter as special as possible. And then in the May, I think it was Daniel Chan, the evangelist, came to our city in Birmingham. And it was a Saturday. It was the first day of lockdown being eased. The very first Saturday, the government said, right now, you can go out. So Daniel Chan was here in the city. We partnered with him and an organization called Church to the Streets. And we were just sharing the gospel. People were getting saved and healed on the streets, right there in the city center of Birmingham. And it was powerful. But at that moment, the Lord said, this is where I need you to be. And we're like, Lord, are you sure? He said, I need you to be visible. And for me, I'm like, I know we are Victory Outreach. It's in our name. We are outreach all over the world. You know, we have churches, 30, 40 countries. And our main goal is to really bring the gospel to the streets. It really is outreach focused. So when he said to me, I needed to take the church to the streets, I was like, Lord, but, you know, we can go back into the building at some point. It should be okay. No, I needed to be visible without walls into the city center, preaching the gospel. This was new for me personally, to be out there preaching on the street, to be singing and worshiping on the street was almost like I'm exposed. You know, I'm exposed to all kinds of things, all kinds of elements. But the Lord has been so faithful and gracious. The gospel has been preached every single week since June 2020 up to this present day, 1 till 3 p.m. every single Sunday. So for those months that we were free and time was open, we really focused on the city center. We did everything in the city center. We set up music. We had worship. We had people testifying. The gospel was preached. And then lockdown came again, and everything was closed. So we said the city center is now going to be ineffective. There's nobody in the city center. Everything's closed. So I said, Lord, what do we do now? You want us to be visible and on the street. Do I just go back to doing our camera services and leave it at that? I said, no, I needed to continue to be on the streets, but go with the guidelines and go from town to town, walking, doing your exercise, and speaking and talking to people about the gospel. Again, Adam, we've been doing that ever since. Hallelujah. Ever since, going out from town to town, every Sunday, preaching the good news. It's been incredible.
What an amazing story. And what an amazing service for the Lord there, you know, taking it out of the church, which corroborates a lot of other, you know, people's views, a lot of other pastors' views, saying that, you know, our use of the church and what we perceive the church to be is so far removed from what the Lord said the church should be. You know, we're now getting back into living in the book of Acts. We're now starting to fulfill the mandate that Jesus gave us, you know, in a more accurate way. And I think it's amazing what you're doing. It really, really is. So can you tell us how people can find out about what you're doing and if they want to get involved, if they're inspired by watching this today and they want to come and meet you and get out on the streets and join you with what you're doing to help bring the gospel and the good news to Birmingham and other towns, and also to lead people to salvation? How do they do that, Colin?
Yeah, what's really exciting is that we've been praying for more people to be a part of what we're doing. We're not just focused on people that's been added to Victory Outreach, but more people, we're focused on people actually going out and sharing the gospel. So as we've been praying, we always put our website, victoryoutreachbirmingham.org. We really focus a lot on social media, which is our Instagram page, our Facebook page. We really spend a lot of time on there, giving every opportunity for people to be a part of what we are doing. If they're in a season in their life where they're sensing that they need to get out of what they've always been doing, then we are available. We do training, we can support, we can pray together. Every Sunday morning from 9 till 10, we have Zoom prayer for the streets at 1 o'clock. We have powerful times of prayer, allowing God to use us and to prepare people ready to receive the gospel. So it's a whole thing. We don't just get up and go out there and hope for the best. You can be a part of the prayer beforehand. On the streets, there's training. We go out in twos. We give out information with our details on. So we are a real church family taking the gospel, the Great Commission of making disciples right there in our streets in Birmingham.
Hallelujah. So if people can't come and join you actually on the streets, they can still join you in prayer in your Zoom meetings in the morning, and then that will percolate into their friend network, which may raise some more people up to come and be on the streets with you, which is fantastic. And I know for a fact that myself and quite a few others from our church and from what we're doing with Faithful Media, we'd love to come and join you for a day or two and come out on the streets with you and just come and support you and maybe do some filming for you while we're there, and just generally try and to come and help the situation with you guys, if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely great. That would be amazing, Adam. Absolutely amazing. And you know what? One of my biggest prayers, amazing. One of my biggest prayers is that we take this gospel to the mainstream. One of my prayers is that we have cameras out there on the streets when people are getting saved, people getting healed, and our city, our nation, the world is seeing the power of God move right there on the street, not just in a building, but right there on the streets. That's one of my biggest prayers. So for you to say that as Faithful Media, to come over and be a part of what we're doing, taking, with the cameras, that's our heart.
Absolutely.
We want to see people saved, yes.
Well, we're all meant to be doing it together. We're all on the same side here, There's no denominations in heaven. So, we're all meant to be just helping each other in this walk, and fulfilling the commission, as you say. So tell me, this COVID, we've had it now since March last year, and it's been a difficult time for all of us. But we all know the Lord's been moving and working in that time. I just wanted your perception, really. What do you think the Lord's involvement has been, or what do you think he's been doing during COVID?
You know what, Adam? It's a period of time that none of us have been involved with before. The way my eyes have been opened is that I can't go to somebody and say, how was it when you were in a pandemic? There may be somebody who may be 70 or 80, maybe 90 years old, probably won't remember fully what happened. So for most of the world, we're in a whole new realm, if you like. And experiencing COVID and having no warning of it has really shaken all of us. When there's times where there's a little bit of a kind of a warning, this is coming, or there's more of a kind of get prepared. Generally, we've had nothing to really say, get ready, the world is going on lockdown. I've not met anybody yet, Adam, that said to me, get ready, the world's going into lockdown.
Yeah.
So, it's been incredible. So my eyes have really been open to, Lord, okay, what's happening? What do we need to do as the church? Straight away as believers, we should be asking the Lord that question in terms of how do we move forward and not fall into the trap of being fearful like the world. The Bible says that we are in the world, but we are not of the world. So we don't fall into the world's customs. We don't fall into the world's way of doing things. We don't run around and panic. We have to remember that God is ultimately in control.
Amen.
But that doesn't mean that we just kind of like ride with the storm and everything's perfect and we are skipping through tulips. It was a challenge for every one of us, Christians or not. We had to change the way we were thinking, how we were living, what we were doing, how we even did church had to change, you know.
So do you think it's what it's actually done then has taken us from our old tried and tested ways of doing things and torn them apart and gone, right, I'm ripping up the copybook that you've created now. I'm going to start with something brand new and bring you back to what it should have always been all along. Is that your perception of it?
Yeah, that is my perception, Adam. And what I sense with that, I don't believe that we were doing it completely wrong. I don't believe God was looking down from heaven and saying, you Christians have got it all completely wrong. You've missed the boat. You just done your own thing. I believe what he's doing is getting us to another place where we've been always doing it how we've been doing it, and he's just shaken how we've done what we've been doing for so many decades, if you like.
Got you.
Yeah. So for me, growing up in church, as I said earlier, it's been that sense of we always did it. It was always predictable. We knew what time, the message was going to happen, how long the message was going to be. We knew it was going to be two fast songs and a slow song. We knew that we opened with prayer, all these general things as church, how we always did it. But who were the people that were taking it out of the four walls? Who were the people that were doing it just in case we weren't allowed to go back into our buildings? So who were the people that were reaching their communities and their neighborhoods on a Sunday morning when they could have been in church inside the four walls? There's many churches doing it now. I've seen some great stories and things of churches doing it right now. Their buildings are closed, but they're reaching their communities on a Sunday morning, giving out food or connecting with neighbors who are struggling. Awesome.
Yeah, it is great.
Incredible.
And also we serve a dynamic God, don't we? We don't serve a God who can be restrained by, our timetable. It's not about our timetable at the end of the day, is it? It's about his will and us listening and doing, hearing and obeying. And so as we navigate coming out now, we're all starting to enjoy. I think Monday is the day that all the shops reopen again and we can go and get a haircut. I definitely need a haircut.
Yeah, I think I do as well,
yeah. And I just like to know from you, really, as we come out of this now, two questions. The first thing is, what do you think the Lord is asking us to do in this next season? And what do you think we should be doing, either in preparation or in application of what you perceive the Lord's asking us to do in this next season? How do we actually make that tangible for the physicality of who we are and where we go and what we do?
Yes. I think, Adam, in terms of the first part of that question, I'm really sensing that we can't, as I said before, fall into the ways of the world and look for this final, for example, June 21st date. The world is looking at June 21st and going, right, we're all free. We can go back to doing how we were doing things before. But the church can't think like the world. There's many people that are like, oh, the pubs are open, great. I can go out with friends and do this, do that. That's fine, no problem. But we are not going back to how things were before. So our perception now has to shift completely and say, okay, God, for the last 12, 13 months, you've been speaking. Am I on the same page as you? Have I taken the things that I've been doing before and flipped them right around 180 degrees and said, wait a minute, we're missing something here?
Yeah.
Who are the people that are saying we need to do something completely different and be the hands and the feet of Jesus, be seen, be visible, fulfill the Great Commission that we're called to do? And are we effective and impacting the world for his honor and for his glory? Absolutely. So for me, Adam, absolutely, I'm stirred in my spirit to say, Lord, I'm sorry for falling into business as usual.
Mm.
I'm sorry that I was on that kind of trajectory of, oh, this must be how we're doing it. We're worshiping and praising you, Lord, and your spirit is here and your presence is here. Of course it is. But I'm sorry that I've not stepped out of what's been comfortable and seeing what you want to do in those unseen places.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So my heart is really open, Adam, now for, Lord, do with me whatever you will. Do with the church whatever you will. But don't allow me to fall back and to miss what you are doing in this time and season, because the world is going around, vaccines and social distancing and all these different things and isolation. It's crippling the world, but the church has to be seen like never before to be the light of the world. The world has to run towards the church.
Absolutely.
It has to be running towards the church. Amen.
It has to. Absolutely.
Yes.
I mean, those are really, really wise words. And I also join with you in unity with that, way of thinking and that, the perception there. We've got to be going out there and doing it. We can't be talking about it anymore, can we? We've got to be, we have to be love out there in amongst all of this fear and all this uncertainty. We've got to be solid foundation as the Lord wants us to be for others who don't know Christ. I mean, I can't imagine what it must be like for somebody who doesn't know the Lord to have gone through COVID.
Wow.
I don't know about you, but I've had COVID, friends have had COVID, a lot of the churches had COVID. And I said in a previous interview, it does make you grow closer to the Lord, because when you're going through that, you do start questioning and thinking, I'm really not well here, Lord sustain me. So, I join with you on that. Have you guys been clear of COVID? Have you managed to stay away from it? Or?
Yeah, we've managed. I mean, this is the thing, you see, Adam. Many of us don't even know if we've had it or not had it.
Yeah.
The only part of COVID, I remember being at home and we were kind of coughing and feeling a bit kind of, a little bit kind of weak in our strength. And we're like, is it COVID or not? We weren't destitute. We weren't kind of like in pain. We weren't suffering that much, but we were coughing more than usual. So this is the kind of thing that comes. We don't know if you've got it. So you're really kind of bedbound. So you really sense that, wait a minute, I'm getting headaches. I've lost my taste. I can't smell anything. And then you know that it's likely to be COVID.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm like, wow, there's people struggling with this thing, not knowing they've got it or not got it. But here's the thing, Adam, just to touch on this is really quite amazing. But when you think now how the world is thinking towards COVID, I'm walking down the road and people almost walk into oncoming traffic to avoid me because of this COVID lifestyle that we've all seemed to have adopted.
Yeah.
Yesterday was so ironic. I was walking down the road. This person must have been about, 100 yards, in front of me. I'm walking with my son. He's on his little bike from nursery. And this person has literally avoided me, not because of me personally, but because of this COVID situation that we're all in, to walk into oncoming traffic, because it's the way we're all living now.
It's safer to walk in front of a car than to possibly breathe something in from a person.
Exactly.
Yeah, back in the day, back in biblical times, they had lepers everywhere, didn't they? The leprosy was there, and it's interesting drawing comparisons with that, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's amazing you just mentioned that, because in our prayer yesterday, I brought the story of the 10 lepers last night. And I talked about the fact that, wait a minute, Jesus healed the 10 lepers. Even when they were speaking, they speak from a distance saying, sorry, Lord, have mercy upon us. Because they, as far as they're concerned, they couldn't go near anybody.
Yeah.
But Jesus healed those lepers. And it likened today, it showed me a whole analogy of where we are today. Everyone's like a leper.
Yeah. Yeah.
People are avoiding each other.
Yeah. And Jesus can heal us all.
And Jesus can heal us all. Exactly. The government is saying take 2 meters apart, stay indoors. Isolation is the biggest thing we're all facing right now. Isolation and fear.
Yeah.
And that's why the world is saying, UK is saying, June 21st, I can't wait. But what is the church saying about June 21st?
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to make a difference when the world is running to the pubs and running to clubs and all that? How are we making sure that, hey, wait a minute, it's the God that we serve who's been in control all the way along. Run to him.
Yeah.
He brings you hope. He brings you peace.
Amen.
He brings you security. The government can't do that. It's trying to do that and it can't. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So
this has been an absolute honor and a privilege today, Pastor Colin. I just want to thank you for what you're doing. I want to thank you for your heart and your tireless commitment to fulfilling what you're doing for the Lord and what He's asked you to do in your life. You're a real inspiration to many, many people, and I just want you to know that we'll be praying for you, and we'll be coming to support you however we can. And just thank you so much for sharing your story and your time with us today.
Thank you, Adam. It's been a real pleasure. I've really enjoyed it. I've looked forward to it. And I'm just really grateful for what God's doing in your life and Faithful Media. So God bless you and all the work you're doing as well.
Thanks so much, Colin. Look forward to seeing you really soon.
Absolutely.
Have a great day. Bless you.
Thank you.
Bye.